10. Carrington. Unlike Dodge, Henry Beebee Carrington conducted intelligence operations against political enemies, the Copperheads and rebel conspirators attempting to undermine the Union cause. Born in Connecticut in 1824, Carrington became an ardent abolitionist in his youth, graduated from Yale in 1845, and taught for a while in the Irving Institute at Tarrytown, New York. Under the influence of the school's founder, Washington Irving, he subsequently wrote Battles of the American Revolution, which appeared in 1876. He was also to write 7 other major titles. Leaving New York, he taught at the New Haven Collegiate Institute while pursuing a law degree at his old alma mater. In 1848, he moved to Ohio and entered upon a law practice. Over the next dozen years, Carrington represented a variety of commercial, manufacturing, banking, and railroad interests and became a pioneer in Republican politics. A close friend and supporter of Governor Salmon P. Chase, he was subsequently appointed to a position to reorganize the state militia, 1857. He subsequently became the Adjutant General for Ohio, mustering 9 regiments of militia at the outbreak of the Civil War. He then was commissioned a colonel of the 18th United States Infantry and took command of an army camp near Columbus. In neighboring Indiana, Governor Oliver P. Morton had need of Carrington's services. For reasons not altogether clear, perhaps it was his partisan political past and or his ardent abolitionism, Carrington was ordered, upon the request of Morton, to organize the state's levies for service. Quote, when Carrington arrived in Indiana, political warfare between the adherents of the administration and its opponents was beginning in earnest. The favorite weapon of the Republicans was that ephemeral and elusive order, the Knights of the Golden Circle. Carrington joined in wholeheartedly. On December 22, 1862, he blamed the appalling rate of desertion on the treasonable secret societies, whose penetration of the army was shown by knowledge among soldiers of a battle sign which would save them from rebel bullets. In a long report dated March 19, 1863, he described the situation as so alarming that it bordered on open revolt. He claimed that the Knights had 92,000 members, between 16 and 70, who were drilling constantly. They were plotting to seize the arsenals, the railroads, and the telegraph in order to revolutionize Indiana and, quote, assert independent authority as a state, end quote. They communicated with Confederates, in particular with General Morgan, whose picture hung in many homes and whose name was daily praised. Thousands of them believed the bold raider would shortly appear to, quote, raise the standard of revolt in Indiana. If he did, Carrington was sure Morgan could raise an army of 20,000 traitors, end quote. What prompted these comments by Carrington, and where did he get his information? The answer to these questions appears to derive from the activities of Governor Morton. Taking advantage of the crisis conditions which the war created, Morton had established himself as virtual dictator of the state. He dealt harshly with rebel sympathizers, Copperheads, Democrats, and anyone opposed to his rule. Before the end of 1861, a spy system had been inaugurated to keep watch of these enemies. Carrington was given charge of this intelligence organization and thus became familiar with the foes of the Union, which it kept under surveillance. There is strong evidence that Carrington had no desire for combat service, and twice Morton intervened to prevent his transferal to the front lines. Thus, it was important that Carrington cast himself in the role of an intelligence chief devoted to maintaining the security of the state, even though disaster appeared to be just around the corner. In March 1863, Carrington was promoted to brigadier general and made commander of the District of Indiana of the Department of the Ohio, later renamed the Northern Department. By this time, however, he had intelligence activities organized and operating under his direction. His Secret Service, quote, was composed of spies, informers, betrayers, and outside secret agents. Inside officials who were jealous of more important leaders were worked on. The itch for money played a part. In quite a few instances, unsuspecting loyal men who had joined the castles were amazed at the lengths to which love of constitutional rights or Southern sympathies could carry the assertion of dissent. From many sources, and for almost as many motives, disclosures flowed in to Carrington's headquarters." End quote. Claiming to have between 2,000 and 3,000 men reporting to him, Carrington enlisted the services of almost anyone who would provide information about an enemy. Unsolicited reports were gratefully accepted as well. The amateur sleuths and informers were supplemented with a few choice agents and detectives. Spies apparently were paid from state funds at the rate of $100 per month, over 6 times the amount received by a federal soldier. Quote, "Early in 1863, Carrington claimed to have emissaries at the meetings of the secret societies. In April 1864, he asked Adjutant General Lorenzo Thomas for money to organize a 12-man detective force. One of his agents said he had 18 men at such work early in 1864. General Alvin P. Hovey, who succeeded Carrington August 25, 1864, continued his espionage organization. Colonel Conrad Baker, the state provost marshal, also employed informers who reported directly to him. At least one of the district provost marshals, Colonel Thompson, had an agent who worked for him among Democrats of the 7th District. He signed his reports only as H, and his identity was not even known to Colonel Baker, Thompson's superior. Carrington claimed he participated personally in this work, once attending in disguise a meeting of the Sons of Liberty in Indianapolis. Be that as it may, the general was probably not exaggerating when he claimed to know every morning what had happened in the lodges the night before. Not only did he have his own spies, but he kept in close touch with other officials who conducted espionage." End quote. Footnote. Also see William Dudley Falk, Life of Oliver P. Morgan, Volume 1, Indianapolis, Kansas City. The Bowen Merrill Company, 1899, pages 405 through 407. Also, for a view of Carrington's spies reporting on each other and otherwise over-ingratiating themselves with unsuspecting rebels, see Treadway, pages 216 through 217. End footnote. While Carrington's operatives were effective in breaking up the Sons of Liberty, the Knights of the Golden Circle, and elements of the Northwest Conspiracy, they also contributed to arbitrary arrests, infringements upon the freedom of speech and freedom of association, and otherwise maintained a corrupt and despotic regime. The manner in which the intelligence organization was recruited, utilizing betrayers, jealous and disgruntled officials, informers, and unvalidated hearsay from unsolicited sources, caused it to traffic in unreliable information of generally more political than military value. And the suspicion prevails that the whole arrangement served to maintain Governor Morton's administration and coincidentally counteracted Confederate operatives who happened to count among his foes. Carrington was replaced by General Alvin P. Hovey in August 1864. With less than a year of warfare ahead of him, Hovey assumed control of the espionage organization as the new commander of the Indiana District. It is not immediately evident if he made any changes in the intelligence operation other than to gain access to the funds seized from bounty jumpers to pay his agents. If the spy system did not collapse at the end of the war, it must certainly have been discarded in 1867 when Governor Morton resigned to enter the United States Senate. Carrington was first mustered out of service as a brigadier general of volunteers, rejoined his old regiment in the Army of the Cumberland, completed war duty, and saw Indian campaigns in the West. He built and commanded Fort Phil Kearny, but lost the respect of his fellow officers due to his reputation as a political warrior and his demonstrated lack of aggressiveness in several Indian skirmishes. Before a decision to remove him from command could be implemented, Carrington became further embroiled in controversy. In December 1866, a force of 80 officers and men under Captain William J. Fetterman was massacred by a force of 1,500 to 3,000 Indians. The disaster was attributed to Fetterman's disobeyance of Carrington's order to proceed on a certain route of march, Instead, he had directly engaged the war party from their rear while they were attacking a group of woodcutters. The Indians turned on Fetterman's force and annihilated them. Because no one had heard Carrington's orders to Fetterman, coupled with existing distrust of the colonel's leadership, rumors persisted that the men had been ordered into tragedy. General Grant moved to court-martial Carrington, but at the suggestion of General William T. Sherman, submitted the matter to a court of inquiry, which subsequently exonerated Carrington. Nevertheless, Carrington was relieved of command, and with his military career ruined, he resigned and spent the rest of his life attempting to convince the public of his innocence in the incident. He also wrote a number of books and taught military science at Wabash College in Indiana before his death in 1912. This is Our Hidden History